the things that I sort of picked up on was locksmiths. Locksmiths not my sort of business. Pest control is, but one of the things about locksmiths is when somebody rings and says, "Oh, I want new locks. How much?" And rather than go straight into what it is, well, the answer is, do you want functional locks or do you want security locks? And that then opens up a whole new chapter of conversation with the client. And for pest control, the one thing I picked up is when somebody rings and says, "Oh, I want 4 visits a year for pest control." Well, you don't want, the reply to a client there is, well, you don't actually want pest control. What you want is somebody to come round every 3 months and just check that you've not got any pests. And we've used it a couple of times. I've used it a couple of times that when I've been talking to national accounts, when they've just said, "Oh, I want 4 visits or 6 visits." And what's come back out from their mouths is, no, I want pest control. I want proper pest control. So, all right. So now if you want proper pest control, you're talking 8 visits or maybe 12 visits a year, because that's what proper, correct, professional pest control is. And that's led into a different conversation. And just by changing them couple of bits of replies to clients, it seems to have made all of a difference to the way that we interact with clients from day one. And I've picked them 2 points up specifically from the conference, and they've really sort of resonated with me, and I've used them quite a few times. So I'm not going to steal Berkeley's thunder. I just thought I'd pass on what I'd learned from Berkeley's sessions at the conference. So Berkeley, I'll hand over to you, and I'll let you get straight on. Can I just ask everybody to put their laptops on mute so that we get no feedback, and then we can go from there. All right, Berkeley.
Phil, thank you so much. Just contrary to something you mentioned there, Phil, if people want to be off mute, as long as there's no feedback, I'm quite happy with that, because a bit of background noise is good. And if you've got any questions, just stop me along the way. But first one is, so name's spelt Berkeley, but it's pronounced Barkley. So give me a shout, just shout Barkley. That's fine. And then because I'm on Teams, I've got about 88 screens on the go here. So I'm going to have to go to a different one to work the slides. So let me just check that works. So I'm going to have a look at the slides and make sure I can transfer them. Phil, is that now moving?
Yes, that's moving.
Yeah, great, thank you. Okay, I'll leave it on there then. So I'm really, really grateful that so many people on the call, because even though Phil's mentioned about at the conference good feedback, but we're on the subject, and some people just don't like this subject at all of what do you mean sales? I'm not in the world of sales. I'm not a salesperson. I'm not doing that. So yeah, so sometimes I understand people feel that way. So thank you for giving up the half an hour to see what you can do. So I appreciate it's optional. But if there's anything I can give you, maybe it's something I shared at the conference and you didn't quite register at the time, that's good. You've heard what Phil said about, well, hang on, if some other people are getting advantage out of this, I want that as well. So we've got up until 6 o'clock. I won't steal any more time off if I'm there. Phil, if you've got anything more to cover, I'll pass back to you, but I'll certainly only go 25 minutes at the most. So interested in what have you used already? What's going on? We'll revisit some talk tracks. So this is a tactical advantage where sometimes I just say this, sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. Well, can we be a little bit better and go, I say this all the time now, and 70% of the time it works. It used to be 50-50. So there's where your little advantages will come. And then it's for you to do the commitment to you, as you go, okay, I'll run with that for the next 2 months. Let's see how it goes. And then you're giving it a fair crack at having it go. You use it once and you fluff it up. You go, yeah, it didn't work for me. Well, you need to use it for a good commitment of time. So, okay, it feels a bit strange, but now I've got used to it. I'm converting better. I'm weeding out the time wasters. I'm going to jobs now that I want to go and do, and I qualify them a bit earlier. Couple of questions, bingo, I'm in. Okay. If there's anything more you want me to cover today other than what we do, please let me know, because I've got a stack of additional information. I might be able to send in a YouTube video. There might be a document or something. Just let me know, and I can happily supply that to you. Okay, is that all right with everyone?
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you. So here's something we looked at the conference, and I want to revisit it, which is called effective questions. Okay, so you can put your own scenario on this, where I take an inbound call and they just ask something. Now you're going to get different things, but I bet you could probably narrow it down to maybe 6 or 10. If I take 200 calls over a period of time, generally these 6, 7, 8 always comes up as a question in some way or another. So I need to be able to deal with those, and you've probably got your top 3 on there. So effective questions that you see on the screen, I'm going to ask you to get your pens out or type it on your devices. What would your effective question be? Now that top one, what is it you're hoping I can do for you? Now hoping is a key word in this sentence, because hoping's towards an emotional word. And if you didn't pick this up at the conference, here's a big takeaway. People buy emotionally. People buy emotionally, and they justify their decision intellectually. So if you're rescuing people, I'm locked out, I've got rats in the ceiling, my bar floor is in a right state, whatever the situation might be, they're generally in an emotional problem. They're doing that. So that's what we call it, the pains. They've got some pain, they've got some challenges. So I'm talking to Mrs. Smith. She brings me up. Oh, it's Mrs. Smith. I live at so-and-so address. And yeah, I've got a problem with my lock. Can you come round and have a look at it? Okay. Potentially can, Mrs. Smith. What is it you're hoping that I can do for you? That hoping word often triggers something in the other person to go, well, I've got this and this and this. I just need to sort it out. So it's a great qualification question. So you can change that sentence to suit, but my suggestion is keep the word hoping in there. But what is it you're hoping we can do? You get them to explain something, you're listening to it, going, well, that's right up my street, no problem at all, or that we don't do that. Yeah, I can't help this situation. Okay. I need a question. Yeah.
Sorry.
Is that you, Sean?
So do you mind if we interrupt as we go, or do you want questions at the end?
Oh, go for it. Go for it.
So I mean, bear in mind, I've used Sandler for many years, so I may come at it from a slightly different perspective, but I think sometimes you hear questions like you've just suggested that, and it might not feel easy to say it. You might say, well, that's a dumb question to ask. But what I've learned is sometimes it may not seem like a great question, but when you ask it, it's amazing where it takes you. And I say, I wasn't even focusing on the emotion of hoping, but is that something you see, that sometimes, in my opinion, sales is about asking questions that other people don't ask in ways they don't ask, because that's what differentiates you, and it can feel really uncomfortable. Is that a fair comment?
Very fair, Sean. Right up the street. So probably like the golf analogy, isn't it? For those who play golf, I do a little bit of golf, where a golf pro will say, yeah, just change your grip. I've been doing that for years. It feels all awkward. Okay, I'll persevere, stick with it. That's better. Same with the questions. Feels uncomfortable. I did it once, felt, no, I'm going to stick with it. Okay, I'm going to prove that Berkeley wrong. I'm going to do it 10 times. I did it, and I'll probably buy 3, 4, 5 ago. I'm in the flow of that question now. That's one of the best questions I've got. So yes, you're bang on there, Sean. Thank you. Right, so you're very welcome to get your phones out or screenshot and take a picture of that screen if you wish. So, okay, some of those don't suit the style I would ask the question, but I'll edit them a little bit to suit me. But what we're doing, maybe 2 or 3 effective questions that you can have ready to go at the right time. So are you in need of help now, or is this tomorrow? Oh, no, we need to come like straight away. All right, so they are in trouble. So that can dispense of all the silly little questions of them going, right, what about this, what about that? It's like they are in need now. They're in an emotional state. You get different levels of that. Now you can couple this with, and I believe Sean may have shared this with you in the past, forgive me if I'm wrong on that. This bit here, we call it the pain funnel. Okay. Now here's a bunch of questions that you can have these as your effective questions if you want, or you can combine them with the previous ones if you grabbed a photo of this and the previous one. So take a photo of that, take a screenshot by all means. This qualifies, and you would change the questions to suit. So Mr. Smith's on the phone this time. You got a problem? Okay, can you tell me a bit more about that? Oh, when you say you've got pests all over the house, can you give me an example? This is going on. How long has it been a problem? Well, I think probably it started about a month ago, but we didn't really realize at the time. Have you tried to do anything about that yourself? Yeah. I went down to B&Q and bought some powder. It's done nothing. I think I've just fed them with that powder. Right, okay, maybe that's enough. Okay, how much you think it costs you may not be relevant at all, but how else has this affected the household? Well, we're planning to move house soon. The reason why we know we've got the problem, the survey came round, and if this turns out to be an infestation problem, we ain't going to sell the house and we're going to lose the one we're going to. That's a big deal. So, a few more questions of what's going on. Right, I'm going to pause here. Okay, now the way I've got the screens, I can't see you at the moment, forgive me. But can we get a couple of volunteers to say, okay, here's a question that I've changed in the last few weeks based on what you picked up, and I've started to ask this, I'm getting a little bit of success. Or is there a question that you've had and used it for a long time ago? I ask this question every time, it gives me the answers I need. Has anybody got a suggestion of that? And because I can't see the screen, Phil, would you be able to nominate somebody and they will love you?
Yeah, well, I'll nominate myself, to be quite honest, because
all right, let's have it.
So I mean, one of the questions I always use is what you've got on there is how long have you had this problem? And what I normally get back from clients is, why are you asking me that?
Yep.
And then I go into a little bit of the biology, so if we're dealing with mice, and I always say, well, look, if we're dealing with mice, the biology of mice is they breed every 21 days. From a breeding pair, in any 12 months period, there could be up to 2,000 mice. Now, if you tell me that how long you've had the problem, that sort of gives me a mind picture of what infestation level I'm going to be walking into. And it helps me, it just helps my thought process before I get to your property. And that always seems to work. It's getting them on that emotional, oh, blooming out, I've had them 3 months. They could now 2,000 mice.
Start working out the maths, can't I?
3 months. Well, that could be up to 500. And that starts them thinking on that emotional thing, and that's always worked for me.
Thank you, Phil. Phil, do you want to nominate someone else on the call, see if we can get somebody from them as well?
Go on then. Let's have a look. Farron, you're on. Do you want to jump up and say something? Seeing as I've interacted, seeing as I've done you a favour this week.
Pretty much what you just said, really, as well. Can you tell me more about what's going on? Just so you can get a rough idea of what is actually going on, get an understanding of what the problem is they're having.
Okay.
That's it.
All right.
And of course, you're taking an interest in them, and that is a good move. Yeah, you told me enough. I'll come round. Let's have a look. But they haven't gone through a journey. So how long has this been a problem? They've got a chance to tell you what's going on. So it's a good relationship build for you. Got one more, Phil.
Bill Ewing. Can I ask you? You're a locksmith, so let's get a locksmith involved. Have you got something that you say to particular clients?
And be nice, Bill.
Yeah, no swearing.
The first. Yeah, well, no. The first opportunity you get to talk to customers when they phone you, obviously, and I always ask, what the problem is. But what I invariably find, what they say and what's actually wrong can be very different. So getting to the actual job and doing a proper assessment, in my, as far as I'm concerned, is definitely the best way to do it. I don't overdo the thinking on the telephone because you don't get the full information. So once I'm there, I'm able to make a much better assessment of the situation.
Bill, can I give you a quick suggestion? Might not be any use to you, but can I give you a suggestion? I'm fully with you, Bill, where people say this and you get there, you go, no, that's not the issue there. But there's a technique that we can use, and we now call it the multi-choice technique. So it can help with qualify. So Bill, if I'm locksmith and I'm taking a call from you, as someone in trouble, I might give you 3 choices of what's going on. Bill, can you tell me about what's going on with it? And you're going blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking, yeah, it doesn't sound like the info I need. So I go, well, Bill, the reason I ask, sometimes people have an issue with A, B, or C. Oh, that C one, that can sometimes get you a bit of extra information. Give some choices and they might bite on one of them. That help?
Yeah, that's fine. I think that's probably what I generally would do anyway, but that's a good thing to remember. Thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Right,
Sean,
we're going to move on to something else now. Go on, Bill.
Sean put his hand up, so we'll ask Sean.
I'm just going to share one from
Sean.
someone. Someone delivered something to me earlier, so this isn't from me, but this is a feedback from the conference saying that. So he was someone that didn't charge for the call out, but rather than saying that, he now uses the terminology. On this occasion, I'm happy not to charge a call out fee, so we can identify the exact problem. So that was just a slight twist on what he used to do, but he felt the delivery of on this occasion made it sound a little bit more special for that customer.
It does.
So that was a little change. So he always offered a free call out, but he now adds on this occasion, come and see the exact problem. I'll do a quote to fix. Is that it with no obligation? Full stop. Is that okay? Question mark. So again,
yeah, good one. Like it.
Yeah.
Like it. Thank you, Sean. Right, next bit, and Phil, I'm going to need you to nominate some people in a few minutes. We're going to look at brilliant answers to things. Now let me just spend a minute and a half just setting this up, if you like. So if someone said to me, how much will it be? I go, I don't know what I say. At the time, if you recorded me, I'll probably say this one time. If I'm in a bit of a busy mood, I go, well, it's going to be that much, and my tonality is too strong, and they say, no, thank you. Or I go, well, it depends on this, and I'll probably spend 10 minutes waffling around it. So what we're going to look at here is give everyone a couple of minutes, and Phil, I'm going to ask you to volunteer people. Is there some really good answers here that we've thought about? Now, it's not just the answer. We can all answer any of these questions. But when I give a little answer to this and a bit of explanation, for example, Phil, I like the reason I'm asking about mice every 21 days, blah, 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 2000. That's a belter answer to something. So people go, we better get this sorted out. So there's 6 questions there. So let's see if people are willing to step forward first, Phil. Has anybody got, like, when I get that question, here's the answer I say, this is my talk track. Hey, blimey, brilliant. And it turns me into it.
Let's ask Rob May, because he's always asking questions on these Thursday calls. So, Rob, do you want to just unmute yourself?
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay. So, how much? I'm just ringing for a quote.
Yep.
So how much will it be effectively? And with that, I just break into a conversation. So.
Brilliant. So give us an idea of what you may say, Ray. Is there little phrases that you use, or
I just say, can I a bit like say how long have you had the problem? And if sometimes there's this saying, oh look, I'm just ringing around just for a quote at this minute, and then I'll say, look, it's really hard to give you a fixed quote until I see the problem. Let me come round there. I can fit you in at the end of the day today. When I've finished all my jobs. How does that sound?
I like your bit on the end. How does that sound? Because it gives them a chance to feed back to you, doesn't it?
Yeah,
good one. I like that. Phil, do you want to volunteer somebody else?
Okay.
Another question on there. Have they got a really good answer?
Craig Goff.
Hello, Phil.
Good afternoon, Craig. Do you want to say how you answer question 2 on there?
How much is a call out, or do I charge for a call out?
Yeah.
It all depends how the conversation goes to begin with, really. If I get a sense and a gut feeling that the customer is a buyer or a serious contender, I'll basically say, yes, there's a charge for a call out. Come out, we'll do a full survey of the property. We'll work out the root cause, and we'll then map out a treatment program for you. If you're happy to go ahead with the treatment and the repairs and all the proofing works, we don't charge just charge you for the work that's required. If you take all my information and my knowledge and experience from me and say I'll get back to you, I'll charge you the call out price. And that's pretty much how I do it. I'm not asked what I talked about.
Does that work majority of the time?
90% of the time, yes.
There you go. That's a good strike rate. So I think we've helped some people out on the call where if that works 90% of the time, I'll nick a bit of that. So a good share. Thank you very much. Thank you, Phil. So
because a lot of the time before I used to go around there for a free call out. This what really obviously when I was brand new doing it, I was doing quite a lot of that and spending like a good, 3/4 an hour driving there, a good hour on a first visit.
Yeah,
that's a lot of time, right? And for them to go, okay, thanks, I'll get back to you, or oh, thanks, get me father-in-law to do that for us. And after you get 10 of them, it starts to kick you in the teeth a little bit. So, yeah, I think that £65 pre-qualifies a customer a little bit. Because if they're willing to pay that 25 quid
for the share,
9 times out of 10, if they're willing to pay that, and you've gone round and you looked them in the eye, and you showed them what you can do, show them how you do it, run them through the whole process. I ain't charging them £65. I'm charging them £350, £410, £420, £450, £460, wherever it mounts up to.
All right. That's good information for everybody else. Thank you. All right, let me give you 2 examples, and we've got one more slide to move to, which is more of a delivery tactic. So I'll give you 2 suggestions. These aren't necessarily related to the forces world, but these are general bits that may work in multiple industries. How much will it be? Okay, and a very common question in lots of businesses, of course, because a customer is like panicking. Is this going to be a load of money? I don't know. I know we're in trouble, but hang on, when we get the tradesperson round, oh, you know what they're like. Remember that builder we had 500 years ago? He said this and it was double. That could be what's going on with people. So you need to reassure people a little bit. So how much will it be? 2 different versions of an answer. Mrs. Smith, I can happily give you a price. The only bit I need to do first is have a look at the extent of what we're looking at. So I'll happily come around and do that. I'll give you a price to solve it. If that's not right for you, no problem at all. I'll leave you be. So that's all right. Is one version. If you want to give a price, Mrs. Smith, at this stage, I just don't know what it'll be. But by what you've described, looks like something typically would look at. We could be anywhere from 150 to 250 pounds, depending on the extent when I get there. How does that sound? How does that sit with you? Is that okay? If they go, sheesh kebab, that much money, no thank you, you go, well, okay, bye. I've qualified. But of course, they're going to look at, well, it might be 150 quid. I hope it's there. So you're giving a bracket price. Please make sure your lowest bracket price is still sensible for you. So 2 different versions of how you can offer an answer to how much will it be. You choose what suits you. And I like what was said earlier. If I get a sense these are a buyer, you can take the judgment at the time. So any questions on that before I move on to one last bit? Oh, good.
No.
All right. Now, the next bit is what we looked at the conference, and it's called the dummy curve, and I love it. This is my best tool on anything at all. Whether you agree or not, there's a lot of science that's been proved where not many people like the duty expert. Now, I've got to be careful of that when I come to things like your conference, go, who's this dickhead talking to us about sales? I don't like him even before he's opened his mouth. I get that happens. So they may have that, customers may have it on you. Well, I know all about locks, I know all about pests, I know all about cleaning. I've been doing this for 12 years and there's nothing you can't tell me. And that's how just getting your ego out there. I know everything, I'm the duty expert. Generally, people back away from that a little bit. They might engage with you, but they're not listening to your conversation. And then the next bit's going to be price, and they'll leave it with me. It might be that. So the dummy curve approach, yes, you know what's going on, but I'm not going to share all the information yet, because we're using a tactic here of people don't argue with their own data. So if I've got Mr. Smith telling me about rats in the loft, yeah, rats in the loft, common this time of year, blah, blah, blah. I could jump to that. Why don't I let Mr. Smith go a little bit? Now, it doesn't mean I'm going to damage my expertise. I might say to Mr. Smith, go, okay, thanks for explaining, but I think I'm just a little bit behind you. Can you just tell me a bit more about that? And this is really useful information. When you think that started, and is there a particular area of the loft you think they've gravitated towards? This will be useful. They get a chance to say what's going on. People are generally quite comfortable on transmit and deliver. And we're going, yeah, okay. And I think I understand. Can I just ask you a question on that? Those sort of things are what they're called dummy curve. So if I join Pest Force, Wash Force, Lock Force, I won't have all the answers. All I can do is ask questions. People give me the answers. A bit of training, I become an amateur and I start telling people everything. I'm boring them to death with my knowledge about locks. The professional phase is, I know everything there is to know. I just don't share it too early. I want them the chance to tell me what's going on. They feel a bit more empowered, and the more they're talking themselves into a sale here. That's what we're doing it for. So to give you my very last slide for today, here's some what we call dummy phrases, which is, okay, yeah, tell me a bit more about that. Okay, a bit of tonality works here. Okay, I'm a little confused. When you say your locks are playing up, but the door's working fine, can you just help me understand that a bit more? Oh, yeah, that's all right, but yesterday it stopped and a week did. It's working fine now, but it's packed up 3 times. That sort of thing are dummy phrases. That's what we're talking about. People feel empowered because they're giving you information. They're not on the receiving end of you telling them stuff that they might not need at this stage. Okay. Phil, we've got 2 minutes to go. Is there any quick questions I can answer on anything? I'll happily do it. But I did say I'd finish on time, so I'm conscious to do that. Any questions on anything we've covered?
Yeah, guys.
25 minutes.
Yeah, there's loads here on the call. Anybody got any questions for Berkeley while he's on the call for the next 2 or 3 minutes?
Yeah, I have ones. It goes.
Go on, Craig.
How about, what's your thoughts on tonality and how you actually say something? How you even answer the phone? Like a higher pitch, low pitch? What's your thoughts on that, Berkeley?
Yeah. Okay, brilliant question. Thank you. Tonality is 38% of communication. So that's words, tonality, body language. That all makes up communication, 38%. Over the phone, tonality becomes 93%, because we could argue I don't have body language on the phone. So my answer to your second part of your question, Craig, I'm neutral on the phone. You know, I'm welcoming the call. Hello, Berkeley Locksmith, Lockforce. How can I help? That'd be nice and pleasant. They're in trouble. I want them a warm, safe place. But then I'll be playing with tonality on, I can go empathetic. Oh, that sounds dreadful. Yeah, I can see why you've called me. Can you explain a little bit more? They start giving me a deluge of information. If I need to be firm with it, well, unless you give me a price, you can't, and I'm not going to get you to come out. I need to know what you are. You could rip me off when you get here. Mr. Smith, I can assure you that's not the case. Let's have a look at the job. I'll give you a price. If it's not right, no problem at all. So I can be firm, slow, empathetic. Use of tonality is a brilliant tool. And of course, we're all gifted with it because we're gifted with a mouth and talk. So use tonality to good effect. Brilliant question. Thank you.
Yes.
Just Berkeley, leading on to that tonality, it's also listening to, this might be a little bit too deep, but you've got little Mrs. Miggins who always talks very softly, and then you got, you know, Mr. Bollocks who just wants short and swift. You know, there's your tonality, and there's also tuning into their tonality.
That's where we said earlier, wasn't it? If I sent to a buyer, that could be their tonality. Yeah, can you come and see us? The locks are playing up, and tomorrow I'm leaving the house on holiday for a week. Their tonality is in a struggle, in a world of pain. And so you can do a little bit of mirror and matching, but be careful not to overdo it. So if somebody, what do you say, Mr. Bollocks, whatever, how much you charge for a call out? Well, I'll tell you what I charge for a call out is going to offend. So I'm going to go a little bit towards them. I can happily give you a call out for you, no problem at all. I need to know the extent of what I'm dealing with here. Is a bit, I'm matching your world, but I'm not going to have a body part measuring competition with you, if you get what I mean. Thanks, Sean. Any last bits?
Guys, any more questions from anybody? Have we all gone quiet?
I'll add a little bit. Nothing. I mean, look, I can. Well, as Berkeley's thrown up a few slides, and as he said, they may or may not quite fit. But if you go back to training, we talked about talk tracks. We didn't talk about talk tracks, but there is some real psychology in the way that words are presented, and there's a lot in this process. So, I would really, as Berkeley said, take those pictures and just think about it, because it definitely works. We've done this system for 10 or 12 years, and it's changed the way we interact with our customers. We ask difficult questions sometimes that you don't want to ask, that makes us different. But the one thing it's kind of slightly linked, but not. What's really interesting listening to phone calls, and you talk about trying to get in touch with a customer, it's called bonding and rapport. Do you know what the last question that most people ask the customer after a conversation? It could be a minute, 2 or 3 minutes. The last question we ask is, can I take your name? And if you think you want to engage with a customer and get an element of linkage with your customer, think about the basic questions like, do you mind if I my name's Sean, can I take your name? And then you start using their name into all the, Deirdre, do you mind me asking this? It's amazing. The last question most people ask the customer is, "Oh, can I take your name?" And you've missed, in my opinion, a massive bonding and rapport part.
I absolutely agree, Sean. Yeah, absolutely agree with that comment. Get the name.
Final thoughts, Phil.
Yeah, go on, Berkeley.
Thank you. I don't mind if we're a few minutes over. I'm okay, but I'm conscious not to steal anybody else's time. The bit where we started out at 35 minutes past the hour was commitment to you. So my encouragement, you do what you like. I can't tell you to do anything. I can only encourage, is to say, okay, I'm open-minded. I will try a few of those talk tracks. I will build 2 or 3 effective questions, implement them, give them some good effort, put some energy behind them. Don't go, yeah, I can happily give you a price. Didn't work. You've got to put some energy behind it. But I promise you, once you've found your groove of the questions, you'll start qualifying easier, charging at better margins, finding out what's going on. And all you're doing, you're not in a world of sales now, you're in a world of qualifying. And I want to make sure my time is pointed to the right place because I want to build revenue. Other than that, I'm really, really glad we had these numbers on the call. I'm very appreciated by that. And if there's anything you want, perhaps Sean or Phil, Berkeley, got anything on this? Got anything on this? I could shoot you a quick video, send you a document. Very, very, very happy to help. I enjoyed working with you, seeing you all at the conference. It's the least I can do.
Yeah.
Cheers, everyone.
Thank you very much, Berkeley. Round of applause from me. Thank you for your time tonight. Thank you, guys, for being on. If there's nothing else now, we'll say good night. Wish you well for the weekend, as always. And you pest controllers, I'll see you next Thursday night.
Phil, do you want to just wait? Yeah. Let Berkeley go. And not because we're going to send him, but just see if there's any other conversation that flows after Berkeley's gone. It might be less salesy, it might be something else, but let's just say, Berkeley, thanks so much.
Cheers all. Bye.
Cheers.
Do you want to just see if there's if anyone has any, maybe people don't want to talk with Berkeley there, but if there's anything else from a sales perspective, because, at the end of the day, converting customers is.
Yeah, guys, over to you. Sean and I are on the line tonight. Now Berkeley's gone. So any other questions you want to ask? Any other comments you want to make about it? Then please feel free to speak now.
It's not so much a question, but more what I would say on the phone, etc. Myself, personally, when I obviously get a call in. Before I even start, as soon as they say that magic word of, oh, how much is it going to cost me to have this sorted, blah, 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 I always go in, well, I need to ask you a few questions first. And then I will say, what sort of property have you got? Is it detached, semi-detached? Is it a terrace? Is it a flat? Are we dealing with a commercial premise? And then I'll go on with a list of a few little questions here and there, obviously get their answers and conversate with them whilst we're sort of getting into key information that I need to know exactly how to quote it over the phone. And then I will say that on average, usually an average job will take between 3 to 4 visits to get rid of a rodent problem, and then I'd give them a quote for that. But I said this is subject to change, obviously. By the time we see the site, if it's a bigger property than what we expected, it may be just that little bit extra, but usually it's an average of this much. And that just tends to be how I sort of end up doing it.
Yeah. Okay, Jack. That's fine. I mean, if you take just one thing away from what Berkeley said tonight and try it and just keep trying it and seeing if it works for you, that's great. If otherwise, if you're unsure, just put yourself a list of questions on a piece of paper and have it with you at all times, just to ask the questions. But I think what Sean said is a real relevant one. Asking for the name up front and then talking to them as though you know them. It's like what we say in training is that, one of the Lockforce guys, he puts every customer's name in his phone. And when they ring him in 2 years' time for a new lock for the mother or whatever, he answers it and says, "Oh, hello, Fred," or "Hello, Sheila," or whoever, as though he's remembered him, and he hasn't. It's just technology that works. But I think when you get to that personal level, really up front, it makes the journey for the customer feel a little bit more comfortable and a little bit more accepting. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I don't think any sales call will go the same way every time, because it's different people, different situations, but it's just trying to keep control. And if we answer every question we're asked, we're not in control of the situation. So if a customer asks a question, you'll have to answer it at some point. But it's, again, we are sometimes too quick to respond because we have been brainwashed to answer a question. And I think what Jack just said, the typical price, the first words we hear from most people are, "How much is it?" And the last words we iterate are, "What's your name?" You can take them through a process, and all you're trying to do there is to take away all the worry that they have. But once you've got them on side, book it in. You don't have to bore them with knowledge.
Yeah.
It's book them in and get it in. So look, I think it is such an important thing. And don't get me wrong, we are quite good at it, but it's amazing how one little change can sometimes save you driving the 45 minutes. So don't forget, a lot of the questioning that we give people, sometimes it's to put them off. Sometimes what we say is to put them off. So don't be worried about that. Obviously, it's not all about trying to convince them that you're the right person. Go through your process. I was at a tender meeting yesterday, and I can take this into the sales process. So my question to them in the tender process was, you talk about quality, yet you put price at 55% of the tender. Can you explain your situation? Now, that's quite a difficult question, because that could be quite offensive. But I did it in a way, tonality was right. And it was really important to hear what the outcome was for me to make that next decision. So everything we talk about in Sandler and what Berkeley talks about can be put into so many different situations. But I'll stop rabbiting because Craig's got his hand up.
Yeah. Craig, you have a question?
Yeah. So, regards to doing the sales calls, do you think that the person taking the call would have to have the locksmith experience or the pest control experience or washforce experience to actually be successful in taking that call, converting that lead to a sale? Or does it have to be someone who's in the job, if you know what I'm trying to say?
No. My personal view is, obviously a little bit more knowledge is useful, because you can kind of see. I mean, Phil can have his opinion because Phil's been in the business a lot longer than me, but you do not sometimes too much knowledge gets in the way of the sale. What we've talked about is talk tracks and a way to respond and just settle the customer. I could sell pest control and locksmith to anyone without knowing too much, but the longer I do it, the more I know some of the nuances. But it's very rarely about the technical stuff, and the technical stuff takes you into that dummy curve where you become the amateur, just talking about BS this, British Standard this, or breeding cycle of a rat, or whatever it is, which is kind of sometimes completely off track to what you need to be talking about. So I don't think there's any problem with it, but someone who does the selling will pick up more knowledge, and that can be a dangerous thing. So I think it's absolutely possible, Craig, is the answer. Yes, it's about knowing what process they're going to follow.
Yeah. I think the biggest reply to me when somebody says, how much is it, when they say that right up the front, I always say to people, that's a great question. Before I answer it, let me ask you a few questions. and you're not sort of snubbing it and putting it out of the window, and you're not going to answer it, but you try and gather a little bit more information about the customer, their pain, what they're seeing, and then you can go into whether you tell them what the average price is, or whether you say it's £65 for a survey, but if we do the work, then obviously it's free or whatever. But it's a great way of just nulling that sort of harsh. How much is it? I've got mice. How much is it to get rid of it? And we get them calls every day. I get them calls every day. But that simple push back to them, saying, "Oh, that's a great question. Let me just qualify a few things with you first before I answer it."
Yeah, I agree. I agree. Don't. What I love listening to the industry is some of the people that go, "I can tell something over the phone. I can give the customer a price. It's bullshit that you can't give them a price." And when you think it through, 9 times out of 10, all of you could probably price something over the phone, but it's not 100% true, because until you get there, a rat might be a mouse might be a squirrel, a Yale lock might be a Euro cylinder. We've all been there. So, any proud technician that tells you I can tell something over the phone is very, very short-sighted, because they're moving away from the psychology of people. When people make the phone call to us, they have a problem, but they are worried about being ripped off, that they found the right person, that person's going to come into their phone. So to me, it's all about changing the confidence of that person. And I think that is almost more important than price for a lot of people. Not everybody, but for a lot of people. If this person's going to come into my house, I want to feel comfortable that person is right for me. And it's the same when we do it anyway. So look, again, I'm not saying it's not right. Some people, it's all about price. I just want the cheapest. I just want the cheapest. But again, I just want the cheapest. That's when you ask the question, do you want proper pest control, or are you just looking for someone to tick a few boxes? I just want the cheapest. Do you want locks, functional locks, or do you want security locks? It kind of, when you can really articulate and have a real thought logic, you can answer any question and throw any question back at the customer, as long as you've got proper logic.
Yeah.
Do you think these customers or potential customers actually go straight for what's the cost or what's the price for that? Do you think they actually ever get a job done, get someone around their house to get it done, or just purely got no intention of it?
I don't know, Craig, but if we don't qualify something, I mean, we talk about a pest control technician in training. He took a phone call. "Oh, I've got mice in my house that I use at the weekends in the countryside, and how much will it be?" And he instantly said, "Well, 3 treatments. We do 3 treatments, standard treatments, and it's this price." And the lady went, "Absolutely fine. When can you get there?"
Yeah.
And he said, "Oh, I can get there tomorrow," or whenever it was. He took the address down. He trolleyed off the following day to this weekend bolt hole, and when he turned up, the drive were a mile long, and when he got there, the house were a mansion, and they've got mice everywhere, and he's quoted for a 3-bedroomed terraced. Fortunately, he rang and got it sorted. But they're the things you need to really qualify when you're talking to a prospective customer. And as I said, the use of that, "Oh, that's a great question," it gives you a few seconds to think about things before you answer it, or you put it to one side to answer it later. It just, it's just a great pushback question to a customer.
Yeah, I mean, since I've changed my strategy in regards to throwing in that £65 survey charge, and if it does turn out to be a job and we'll have to go ahead and proceed, it's free, that survey. That to me straight away is qualifying that customer. So far, I've not lost one of them ones at all. And I've not even charged £65 yet, I don't think.
Yeah, no, Craig, it is. Look, we have this constant quandary about free call-outs, and the way you've delivered it is logical. There's logic in reason in what you're saying, and when there's logic and reason in what you're saying, people buy into it. Simple as that. And it's kind of a marketing gimmick to a certain degree, but it has logic, it has reason, it's authentic. Again, horses for courses. If it was down the road, I would go and do it for a free call out. If it's an hour's drive away, I'd try and qualify it. But you found something that works. It is a free call out, a little bit grey, but it is a free call out, as you say. And you know, you are doing an hour's work. Our idea of a free call out is I'll pop in, have a quick look and tell you whether you've got a problem or not to spend an hour doing a survey, if you like, free of charge, because that's time and effort. But look, it is a grey area that we probably need a bit more clarity, but the way you've delivered it works perfectly to me, and you deliver it with reason. So no, I think it's a great approach. I really do.
Yeah, well, it's worked for me so far, so happy days.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Any more questions, guys?
Someone was trying to get in there, I think, but
Look,
honestly, just let's get honestly. I mean, it is just, you know, don't spend days and days deliberating it. Just think things through, but just the basics sometimes, getting the name, getting your tonality right, seeking permission, telling someone what you're going to do and seek permission is you controlling the conversation and then being just saying, yeah, crack on kind of thing. So look, I hope it makes sense. We'll keep adding more into the sales mix, but there's a lot more to this than people meet than it may meet your eye immediately. So have a little thing. I've recorded it, so we'll put it back out if people want to reread it. But I would start just making a few notes, and it will make a difference if you work at it. I genuinely can confirm that.
Right, guys. Before we go tonight, it's just a reminder: we've had the sort of soft rollout of the new updated ops system, and